And we're live. Hello. Hi, Gill. How are you?
Good morning, Giovanni. I'm really well, and welcome to our Stamperia family.
Great. It's always so nice to see you, and I love seeing your conservatory. Can you show us a little bit more of where we are, because it's always so nice.
Okay, I'll try and move my camera.
Oh, here. There we go. Beautiful.
So yes, I'm in a full conservatory
Oh,
with a very big craft room and lots of stuff.
so nice.
The other way is that. So it's a large room. It's about 22 feet, so it's quite long. And I look out onto the garden, which makes life really nice as well.
Always amazing. And you have so much, we were just discussing it, you have so much natural light that makes all your colors and everything you make pop up so much. So,
yeah,
really, congratulations. So nice. Okay, so can you tell us a bit about what you're going to do today and what products you're going to use, everything you would like to share?
Okay, Giovanni, is the camera around the right way?
Well, if you can turn it 180 degrees, that would be perfect.
Because it looks like it's misbehaving. Hang on, excuse me, if everyone goes seasick whilst I just do this. Yeah. Hopefully that will be better.
Perfect.
Lovely. Hi, Cindy. Thank you for joining us. So we're going to make, well, it's called a pop-up box card today. I custom sized this one because I wanted to make a square card for the inside. So we've got a front cover and some flaps that open out and some tuck spots where you can put photographs or memorabilia or anything else that you might want to. And in the centre is a 5-inch square card with a custom cut pop-up inside it. And I've done this because I'm rather hoping that people will have tried Radovan's lovely kits and want to take it a little bit further or do something that's a different size, having got the bug for the pop-up kits that are now available. So that's what we're going to be making, little bit by little bit. I have cut out all of the elements because there is quite a lot of fussy cutting along the way. I thought that would make life easier. So that's what we're going to be making. So I'll pop that over there. And these are the products that I have used. So I've used the decorative chips, which are code SCB61, which come from the Sleeping Beauty collection. And then I've used several from the Alice collection. So SCB50.
Okay.
SCB77. SCB49. And SCB76. But if you were to try this project, you will have lots of elements left over for another one. I've also used one of the older Stamperia molds that came with the paper backing that I've lost, so I haven't got the number for this one, but it's got the one with the lots of teacups on it. And I really like the new packaging. In fact, it doesn't have the paper and it's got the label attached to it, so I don't lose them. I've used elements from the background papers from Alice, which is FBBS46. I've used pieces from the Alice scrapbooking papers, which is SBBS01. I've used lots of the collectibles, SBBV10. I've also used elements from the 12 by 12 pad SBBL93, which is the new 12 by 12. And also, finally, as if that little lot wasn't enough, I've used some parts from the original paper collection.
SBBL 52.
Over. And I haven't got the, I have got the number for that.
I know it by heart, don't worry. SBBL 52.
SBBL 52, correct. So that's what I'm using. I'm really aware that that's a lot of product, but that you will have tons left over. And it's also a product that you could use scraps of paper rather than needing to have the whole thing, for it. So I have started by actually preparing quite a lot of my pieces because there's a lot of cutting and a lot of folding to do. So the base of my project is, which you require 2 pieces, are 7-inch square white card, and mine's 300 grams. So it's quite solid, and I've cut 2 pieces of paper that are about 1/4 of an inch smaller than that to mat and layer on those later on. So the first thing we're going to do is to make this front flap panel. Okay, so for the front flap you need a piece of paper that is 8 1/4 inches wide and 7 inches high, and you need to score it at 1/2 inch, 1 1/4 inches from the left hand side, because that will create you a tag to attach it to the base and a spine piece for one of the sides of the book. Okay.
Excellent. Sorry, Gill, just one sec. Because everyone is asking where they can find the products, if we have any shop watching in the comments, please put your links. Let people know where they can find all the products that Gill listed. Everybody's going to love it. And,
so in the UK, which is where I'm based, they're available from a number of shops. That's Crafty, who I design team for, Dally Art Market, I Love Mixed Media, Charmed Cards and Crafts, and if you keep your eye out, then they're sometimes on the craft store as well. There may be others, but those are the ones that I know about in the UK, and I don't think they'll be too difficult for people to find, because they've been out for a while. So I think all of the distributors or retailers should have them in stock. Okay. So that's where you can get them that I know of in the UK, and someone can message me if they think I've missed anyone out, because I wouldn't want to do that. I've also used a 1/2 inch corner rounder and rounded the edges because I just think it looks neater and tidier to do that. So I've taken a piece of paper from the background, no, from the Alice papers, and I've cut it so I've got a gap all the way around to make a nice mat, because I think that makes the papers pop a little bit. And at this point it's up to you what you do. You could just put it on straight, or you can just ruffle up the edges gently with a pair of scissors, and obviously you've got a sharp tool in your hand, so please just be mindful of that when if you are using a pair of scissors. But you do want one that is reasonably sharp to ruffle them up, and it just gives a little bit of an edge. And then I have the Stamperia craft glue DC31 that I'm going to use for gluing my elements in place. Okay.
Great.
And this is a new bottle, so hopefully it will not be clogged up, which is always a blessing in disguise, I find, because too often I go to my bottles of glue and find that I've left the lid off and they've clogged up, which is clearly my fault, not the glue's fault at all, because it's designed to dry. There we are. So a little bit of glue, and pop that in the center of the page. There we are. Give that a little rub down. And you really don't want to have huge amounts of glue splurging out at the side. And then I have lots of elements here that I've carefully put in an envelope to make my life easier. So let's just take these out. Okay, so I have taken 2 of the alphabets off of the calendars off the 12 by 12 papers, and as I've ruffled the edges of the base paper, then for consistency you need to do that for the whole project. I mean, clearly if you don't want to ruffle them, that's up to you, but it was the look I wanted, and I'm just going to pop these down here so I know where I'm going, which is the advantage of having got having prepared a project.
Cindy's saying you're so organized. It's true.
Pardon?
Cindy's saying that you are so organized. It is true.
I think that when you're doing quite a big project, which this is, if you're aiming to do it in a manageable time frame for a live so that people don't get fed up and bored, then and I do know that our lovely Stamperia followers are really good at staying with us, then it actually is helpful to have all the pieces prepped, because if I was having to go through each paper pad and find the element I wanted, would spend half of my time flicking through papers rather than actually being able to make my project. When I made it the original sample, then I spent quite a lot of time actually just flicking through, ruffling through my papers, and to find the elements I wanted. And I have to admit that I started by fussy cutting out the entire collectibles pad of paper. So if you're not a fussy cutter, then then I apologize. This project really
it's not for you.
is a fussy cutter, and but I just think that it allows you to layer lots of elements, and it means that you have everything together. I think my favourite addition to the range this year has got to have been the addition of the collectibles elements, and followed by the background papers, because I just think that they make such a difference to what we're doing. So there we are. So these elements all come from the collectibles paper pad, and I've probably gone through, I think, 3 collectibles pads now from the Alice collection, because I love Alice and have made I don't know how many different projects now with them.
I can't quite remember. I think 2 or 3, yes, because there are the original Alice, and then through the looking mirror. So yeah, quite a lot.
Yeah, I made lots of projects with the original Alice collection when that first came out as well. So yeah, it's a favourite story from childhood. I don't think I understood the politics behind it when I was a small child, but I love it, and I love all of the elements that are there. So there we are. From there, I have managed to put my heat gun on, so I've just got some gauze, which is easy enough to find, and I'm going to sort of stretch it a bit so it looks a bit more tatty. That's just because I like the look. You could leave it in, you could take it out. The option really is up to you as to what you want, but it becomes tatty quite nicely. And I didn't want my front project cover too layered, but I didn't want it completely flat either. That's going to be in the way. So there we are. So here we are. We'll pop that across there, and I need my decorative chips. So let me just get those out. Now these are held in with little pits to stop them all falling out in transit. So all you need to do, so there's a little pip here, and you can just push them out, and I find it easier to just push down and hold one side still and pull. But if you find that difficult, then actually just take a little craft knife and cut through, and that will work. It's quite important that you don't pull the pieces, because you will break the elements if you do that. So it's a little wriggle or a cut, but definitely don't try to just to pull them out. There we are. So that can go over there. So I have my little teapot, and I've chosen deliberately just to leave these plain, not to add anything to them, partly because actually I like the color of them as they are. I think that they're cream rather than white, and I just think that gives us a nice nice effect, really. So that one can go over there, and I'm going to add, just literally, I'm using my fingers just to round my big teapot. Okay. A little bit, and hopefully, no, my glue gun has decided to fail. That's never good. Okay. So we can then, I'm going to have to wait for my glue gun to heat up. So that's there. So I'm going to pop that over there, and I will come back to that shortly. I've also got for my front cover some resin pieces. You could just as easily use ceramic powder, but I've used resin. I primed them with the gesso, and then I've painted the teacup with Bianco Latte KAL 110, and It's Always Tea Time with blue aviation blue, which is KAL 42, so that I've got the bases there and dried, because otherwise heat guns aren't nice things to be hearing through lives, and it takes a while for everything to dry. And I'm going to just add, she says, because there's plenty in there, a little bit of the white latte, the ivory shade to my piece to soften the blue. And you can add as much or as little as you want, but it helps bring out the textures, and you go from not being able to see the words to being able to see all of the detail in the mold. And for the teacup, I'm going to do the opposite. So there we are.
Sorry, Jill, just one sec. I have to answer one question. Leanne, maybe YouTube didn't post it. Can you post your link again? Thank you very much. Ciao, ciao.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Leanne. Leanne has got a brand new shop, or very new shop, called Mad Archers.
Perfect.
That she's just opened, and she has some fabulous stuff on there. So sorry, I forgot, because it's such a new shop. That wasn't very polite of me. I do apologise. So I'm just going to pop those over there to dry. And I've got a little bit of gauze that I'm going to use to wipe up those, because that's what's to hand. And I'm rather hoping at this point my glue gun will have decided to warm up.
Jill, it's already coming out really beautiful, I have to say.
Clearly not. There we are. The glue gun has decided it will wake up, which is always a big blob. But you could use a dimensional glue if that's what you had to hand, rather than hot glue. I just find that the hot glue grabs really quickly, so it makes life easier for me. So now I'm just going to tuck that one under there. So that is the base part of my cover. And before I decorate put on the really dimensional elements, I'm going to move on to decorating the inside of that. And because I know what I'm like, I've written very carefully on here, adhere ribbon before adding closure papers. And that's because I wanted to have something to tie my book together with. And so I'm taking probably a 6 to 8 inch piece of shabby coloured ribbon. I'm using pink this time, blue this time, because that's what I had. And I'm just going to pop a little bit of blue here, glue that into place, and that can go down there.
So
Yeah,
in place.
I hope so. And then we will decorate the inside of here. Now, I had bits and pieces of papers, and so rather than wasting any, I decided that I would make a pocket. So I was using pieces up rather than starting on a new piece of paper. So there we are. So I've got, so this is just a cut-off piece, and that's going to, and it looks like I need to cut a little bit off that. So just forgive me. Clearly, I haven't taken enough off that.
Okay.
So that's me being organised. I hope we haven't done that for all of the other ones, but there we are. Oh, pop that into there. Make sure that's rounded. That back over there. That side doesn't need to, it's going to be covered.
You know what's really nice is everything you're doing looks like a work, like a painting. You keep on creating more and more, and the colors are so nice. Congratulations! Everything around yeah.
So I think that having papers that are coordinated in the different sizes really makes a huge difference to making a project come together. It just allows you to pick the best size for the project that you're making, and the colour combinations that Stamperia have chosen also, work well together. I love these slightly more muted tones. Now I'm going to create a pocket here, so I need to make sure I add glue just around the edges so that I've got a functional pocket. So that can go onto there. There we are. Just line that up reasonably straight. Always helps. I don't like stuff that's wonky. There we are. So give that little push down. And the craft glue grabs quite quickly, which is always lovely. And I'm just going to turn my own project over. So I've got my little crib piece sitting there, and retrieve all of the bits that I have in the envelopes for making everything together. Okay. So to go in my pocket, I've just taken from the original Alice papers this piece from the paper, folded it in half, scored it nicely, and rounded my corners. It is going to mainly be in a pocket, but I will just ruffle the edges. And this piece will then tuck into there, so it can be pulled out when anyone wants to do so. And then we have an element to the front. So this is a piece of paper from the background papers that is 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches, corners all rounded, and then scored at an inch to give me a little flap. And again, we're going to ruffle the edges. Don't need to do that because that's going to be covered. And then we're going to pop this down. And you can see just how little glue I'm actually using. And this is going to sit then on the front of that pocket to give it a little bit of extra interest.
Okay.
Okay. So, and now what are we going to do? So I now wanted an element to pop on the front of here to give me a flap to open. So we'll open this and then we have another flap. So I've taken, again, from the original Alice collection, one of the elements and to cut that out, and it's too big in its natural form to sit on there. You could just add it there, but I felt it looked too big, and so I'm literally just going to chop off the corners of that because I think it will look better if I do that. There we are. It won't take very long. I want to carry on the curved corners, so I'm going to round these edges a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we go back to just ruffling up the edges. And one of the joys of ruffling up the edges is actually, if you haven't cut it so accurately, by the time you've ruffled them up, no one is actually going to know. So if you're a bit wonky with your paper trimmer, then it doesn't actually matter. And this piece is going to fit on there. A little line of blue, put that onto there like that. So now I have two places on here for adding photos if I want to, and a place in here, and I can still see my nice element on there. And then I need to decorate here. So I have cut out the frame, the big fancy frame from the 12 by 12 paper, actually, from the new Alice collection. Just going to give those little edges a little bit of a ruffle. And we'll add those onto there.
Okay.
I'm going to go center on there. And when doing this, you just need to make sure that you can still, you're not blocking any of your mechanisms. Okay, cool. And I have then taken one of the beautiful elements from Sleeping Beauty. I have to say that I think this is probably my favourite of the chipboard sets. And all I'm doing is I'm deliberately breaking this one because I want a whole element.
Okay, so you break it out from the. I
am. Because I actually only just need this little element for what I want to do. And I find it easier to keep them for doing that. So that I'm going to pop up here. The nature of this book means that you can add some dimensional elements inside, but I think you just need to be mindful that the pages are meant to flap over each other nicely, and if you go too deep or too bulky with your inside elements, then that won't happen. And I've forgotten what I did, so that was not sensible. Possibly that, there we are. So we'll tuck a little teapot behind there, because that's there, before I add a cake, because this part is all about a tea party. It would make a fabulous invitation, and in the inside of it you could actually put a wedding invitation or a fancy anniversary invitation, because there's certainly space in the centre to put a card with the invitation and also an RSVP note and an envelope to send it back. That would be quite nice. So that's there.
It's a beautiful present.
So there we are. So I'm going to adhere one of my back panels now to my little flap. There we are. So that's going there. And again, when you do this, you need to be up to the flap, but you need to leave enough space for the card to move. Otherwise, you'll find that you can't close the thing nicely. So this one is going to go into here. There we are. And then this paper is again from the new Alice collection, I think. Yes, no, the new Alice collection rather
Yeah,
than the
that's the
older
new
one.
one. You can
So that's
see when she
wonderful.
seems like she's falling, it's the new Alice.
Very good.
Hmm.
I just love all of them. I have to say, I absolutely love all of them. So we now have our front flap done. So I'm going to pop that somewhere safe. We'll stick that over there. And we will retrieve the next piece. So and I wrote the numbers on this upside down, guys, so just bear with me. So this piece is 7 and 7/8 wide and 7 inches tall, and it's scored at half an inch from this side, and then 6 3/4 and 7 6/16, so 3/8. And it's important, those small differences in sizes are what will allow the pages to layer one on top of each other, and because this is going to be orientated to the right of the book as you're looking at it, so here, so that's there, so those are those, and I will, if people need me to, post the size, write the sizes down, and post those separately for people. So I've
At the
now got
beginning of the
another.
live, Cindy was so happy that your sizes are in inches. It's something that we usually don't have.
So I'm very much a mix and match girl. I have an American scoreboard, and it's in inches, so that's what I tend to use. But there are some things where centimeters are easier. And what I would say is it actually doesn't matter which you use, as long as you stick to either centimeters or inches. And I want a flap on this piece of paper, so I've cut myself from the new collection piece of paper that is 6.5 inches by 5.5 inches, and again I've scored it at an inch and folded it over, reinforced the edges and rounded my corners. So that is going to go here.
Okay.
Just be mindful when you're doing this, because the eagle-eyed of you will notice I've actually scored it to start with on the wrong side of the paper, so I ended up rescoring it. By the time I've got my extra elements, it won't matter. When I'm choosing my papers for things like the flap, I always be mindful of what's on the reverse side, so that I end up with my text, if there is any, the correct way, and an image that I quite like, and one where I haven't got a face half hidden. But ultimately, you could just use mix and match, but it's that sort of attention to detail that I like. So this piece can now, with its flap intact, go on there.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a project of cutting and layering. It's not uber complicated, but it is a little time consuming, purely because of the amount of flips and flaps and extras that I've popped into it. Ultimately, you could leave it with unembellished pages just as easily if that suited you. But again, every project is always slightly different, and this is for inspiration. You're welcome to take the whole idea and copy it directly, but actually evolving as a crafter, it's really quite good to be able to take a concept and then adapt it to your own likes, rather than actually necessarily sticking to exactly the piece that's in front of you, and that, of course, makes it truly your own design. There we are. So this is another of the elements from the original Alice collection. And I often use the more background element, shall we say, rather than the front element. And because I'm a numpty, I put blue where I don't want blue, because that's what you do in the middle of a live. There we are. Let's put that, because I actually created a pocket here on my original. So, but you could just put it straight down. It's entirely up to you. So that's going to go on there, and hopefully I've wiped enough of that off for it not to be a problem. I have a teacup. Or actually, this is more of a, although it's, for me in England, I don't know about other parts of the world, this shape of pot would be considered more of a coffee pot than a teapot by tradition. And one of the joys, of course, of the collectibles is that they're reversible. So I can pop it this way. To me, that is looking out from my project. So my eye doesn't like that. So I'm going to pop it this way, look, so the teapot is looking into my project. And that may seem a minor detail, but it's what makes me happy. So that's what I'm going to do. So that piece is going to go
makes us happy. It's
well,
such a nice thing you just said.
Yeah, I think it is about being happy, isn't it? You know, crafting is definitely my happy place. I would say that I craft every single day, or at least do something crafty related pretty much every single day, and would feel wrong if I didn't. And that, you know, it is just my happy place. So there we are. So we now need to add a snippet from the decorative chipboards that I went through at the beginning. And we've got a teacup and a pot. So Drink Me seems to be the logical chipboard to go into here. That one adds just a little bit of blue. That can go into there. And I've got, again, from the original Alice collection, 2 tags just cut out from the papers that I'm just going to add some holes to, so that I can make some little tags to put into that pocket. So let me just make a hole and make a hole. Now you could reinforce the holes if you wanted to with some circular die cuts. I'm going to leave those off, and I've just got some wax thread here that I'm going to use to help pull them off, so that they're easier to pull in and out. So I'm popping my folded piece of thread through the hole in the tag, which gives me a loop, and then I'm going to pop that into here, and that's called a lark's head knot.
Okay.
And you can either leave it like that, or as I do, and I think Art Dorota does as well, just add an extra knot and shovel it down onto there. Chop that off, and then that can go into there. And let's repeat that process. So it's quite a nice way of adding a pull to anything really. You could use it as a page. You could do the similar sort of thing if you wanted to create page turners. That would work equally well. So there's my lark's head knot, and another overhand knot tucked over there. So there we are. So that one can then sit in there. Okay. So that completes there. So we could put a photograph here and another one there, depending on what we wanted to do. So that is the inside of there. Now we have the reverse side of there. I just again remember when you're doing these and cutting your papers to just make sure you put your corners on the right side. I always have the piece I want in the direction I need it and put my paper over it before I take my corner rounders to the piece of paper, so that I know that my edges are on the right side. And I'm sorry if that's distressing of those paper edges is going through people.
Oh, perfect.
So
no problem.
there. I've got another piece of paper the same as on the front, because this piece of paper is identical to this page size is identical to the reverse side. So that is going to go into here.
Yeah.
And that can go there. And that piece can then be stuck down. That piece can go centrally on there. There we are. Okay. And in my little box, or a little envelope of tricks, I have lots of elements cut out. I will reuse the paper, the envelopes. They won't go to waste.
I love all the envelopes you have around with all the elements. That's something we all should learn.
I think that if you're, when I make my original, I didn't have them all laid out like this. So, I picked them up as I wanted to. I put them down. But I think if you're teaching or needing to recreate something, it's just easier to have everything together so that you know where everything is. And it just, again, makes life easier for showing. You can come through the papers, you can look at an image and pick up ones. Whereas if I fussy cut all of this lot out, you would be here forever and amongst the Sundays, really, with me, just taking all of the pieces. And that's all very well and good, but actually it might make for quite boring viewing.
Oh, look, there is nothing boring about this. You're doing such a beautiful job, and the colors are popping so much. Everybody's loving it.
But I think if I was to have to cut each piece out, then separately, then it would become an issue for everyone. So in the original Alice section, there is a piece of paper that's got lots of text in the background, lots of cups, and there's this element that I cut out and have deliberately left the torn edge, and it has its own sentiment. So let me just pop that, and that's going to become another pocket. So hence the gluing, only on 3 sides.
Okay.
And this piece comes from, again, the original Alice collection, and it's a long tag, and I've cut it off so that it fits comfortably in my pocket, because the whole tag is quite long and didn't fit comfortably, and I just wanted something that was going to sit in the in that pocket as an added detail for what was going on. And I've cut it so that I've cut below Alice's face, so I haven't done anything that would make me feel uncomfortable when I look through it, because chopping through a face is never a good thing to do. It's best avoided, I think, if you can. But if you're happy chopping through a face, be my guest. It'll be your project. But for me, I tend to avoid it. There we are.
Decapitating.
So that piece is going into, then goes neatly into there. So it sits comfortably into there.
Okay.
I've got lots of paper elements cut again from the paper pads, and these have actually come from the same piece of paper that these came from. So again, they're slightly smaller than the ones that are in the collectibles edition, but ultimately is, you could use whichever ones you had. There are lots of cups in here, and the collectibles pad won't have enough for you to do all of it just by using those ones. And I like mixing and matching my sizes. I just think it makes for a nicer project visually if we can do that. So I've got the word tea party, which I'm going to pop over here. And then I think I'm going to change this up a little bit just because I can. And you wouldn't know probably because you can't see my original. So that's going to go over there. Now, because these have come from the paper pad rather than from the collectibles, they're not double-sided. So you just need to be mindful of that. If you really want to choose the laterality of the piece, then you need to use the collectibles one. If it doesn't matter, then you could, fussy cut it out from the paper and the direction is less of a problem.
Okay.
Yeah. So that piece is going to go into there. So I'm now going to take my base piece, so my original piece, and I'm going to attach A to B. Okay, right, where did I put that? There we are, that's where I put the glue. So little line of glue on the flap. Make sure that it goes halfway and line it up carefully, because you want it to sit nicely.
Okay.
And make sure that it will fold, she says.
Look at that. Yeah. So nice.
I think so. And, if you wanted a quicker project, you could leave it at this. I just add another closure, and then you've got a perfectly acceptable project just on your own. And you could put bulkier elements in if you wanted to. So that piece is now going to go out of harm's way. And we will pick up the top flap. So the top flap measures 7 inches across.
Yeah.
7 inches tall.
Okay.
And it's scored at 6 inches and 6.5 inches. So this means this spine is 1/8 smaller than the last one we've done. And that just gives me a flap that will work nicely. Okay. So, and it is that, it is only a change of 1/8 on each of the flap panels that makes the difference. Okay. And as I said right at the beginning, each of my pieces has cut so that they mat and layer with about 1/4 inch border around them. So that piece is now going to go onto here. This is from the new Alice Through the Looking Glass collection. Okay. Here. Oh, more pieces. Yeah. Okay. So I've taken one of the square elements from the paper pad and I've trimmed it a little bit so that it fitted better with my piece. And I shouldn't have stuck that down, so I'll just lift that up and I've rounded the corners again. I like the fact that, this is meant to be a flip flat box, and that's just scored at 1 inch. Okay. So there's consistency with all of my pages. The box is a flip flap box, and all of the elements that are inside it are flip flaps, so that we've got a theme running through the whole piece. This is another of the tea party pieces. Yeah. These chopping. I can't think why I didn't chop these pieces off when I was prepping, but hey ho, you can't have everything.
That's fine.
There we are. At least most of it was done. So there we are. Let's get down that right, down the right way. And this piece I know is going to hang over the edge of here. So let's just give that a little ruffle.
Okay.
And you just need to be mindful when you're doing this where you put the glue, because otherwise you end up with your flap being stuck down when you don't want it to be, which is frustrating. Yeah, who's done that before? That'll be me. So all I did was put it where I wanted it and put my finger as a guide as to where I didn't want to put any more glue, so that can go there, central in there. Yeah. And I've left the word twinkle, and I've got a nice image on the reverse of there. And I know it's upside down, but that's something I'll have to live with. And then elements again from the paper section. So this is cut from the paper section. I know that because it's not got a reverse image. So okay. Can go there. This is also cut from the paper section for the same reason. So that can go there. That will work. I've got a cake, so that can go there.
Okay.
And then because we've got cake, and because we eat cake, we're using the Eat Me from the decorative chips. So that can then go there. Yeah. Okay. So we've got a flap, a decorative element, and a message on there. So let's now move to the inside flap.
Yeah.
I've got, and here, spot the obvious mistake. I've got my corner images rounded on the wrong side. But so I'm going to put the paper on upside down, but it won't probably matter too much. But I wouldn't do that. If I wasn't live, I'd go and find another piece of paper and recut it. But hey ho, we are live, and it might take me a while to find an additional paper. Okay. And well, essentially what I've done is I've used the same format for this page as I've done for the opposite side. So I've got another of the square elements from the paper pack. This is the new section.
Okay.
So that one will sit in the centre of here. And then that can go down. There we are. So there we are. I can't see any messages, so because I'm concentrating on what I'm doing. But I hope everyone is happy and
everybody's happy.
And if they've got
questions,
just
saying good morning and saying what a beautiful job you're doing. So
good.
Yeah.
So this is another from the Alice collection, the original collection with the lots of teapots. I'm a Brit, tea has to be done, doesn't it? If you're a British, tea is definitely part of the inner psyche. I do have a cup of coffee. I'm not completely pure, but I will have 1 cup of coffee a day, because I then don't end up with my heart going boom, 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 boom from the caffeine in it. And until very recently, I was a full-time children's surgeon. Having a heart pumping and my hands shaking in time with my heart was definitely not a good thing. Trying to operate on the premature baby, shaky hands, it's not a good look. So I have 1 cup of coffee a day, which I absolutely thoroughly enjoy. So that piece has come out from one of the papers. I've got a collectibles teacup. You could cut out the essential, these pieces if you wanted to, but life is a bit too short for me for doing that. And I think actually it doesn't matter too much. And we have Alice from the collectibles, and Alice has laterality. And actually for this piece it doesn't matter, but I actually prefer it looking towards the teacup, the teapot. So that's what we're going to add into there. Alice took that way. There we are. We'll pick up another of our beautiful background piece, decorative chips.
Joe Shannon is saying it is a lovely project and so well demonstrated, a lovely informative live. And Agnieszka says what I was thinking too. I'm not covering too much because I'm busy watching you at work, Jill. I don't want to miss any information. Yeah, you're doing such a great job, and you can really see your surgeon attitude. This is so perfect and so precise. It's great.
Thank you, Joe, for taking the time to watch, and also Agnieszka for working alongside, because it's quite difficult, and with so many lives each day you can find that actually time just disappears, and that horrible thing called housework somehow just hasn't happened. It's never a good thing, is it? But that's life. But so I'm now going to add a little bit of glue to my flap and center this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we're going to be over by a little bit.
No worries.
It's quite difficult to do a detailed multi-step project, I think, in an hour, even with masses of prep done. But there we are.
Take your time, really. I don't want to rush you in any way. It's fine.
It's all right, Giovanni. I'm not going to be rushed or hassled. Don't worry. But yeah. Right, let's turn these 2 pages round. Maybe not. No. That will work that way. Okay. So we might have another corner round a mistake coming up in a minute, but hey ho. Everyone can learn. So this is the bottom flap. Okay, and it's 7 inches wide. It's 5 1/4 this way, and it's scored at 4 1/2 and 4 7/8 to give me a spine that is another 1/8 of an inch smaller than the top one. Okay. So I have to be fair and say that I was given a set of flip flap box templates by a very good friend of mine called Liz Wheeler, but it's a bit smaller than I wanted for this. So I took her basic template idea, and I'm sure if you looked on Google, there'll be lots of others, and then added to it to get the piece that I wanted.
Okay.
Right, lower that outside. There we are. But this is all custom sized for me, so that I could fit my the card in that I wanted to in the center. So there we are. So I have to confess that I have broken into a second collectibles pad, because I love this coffee pot very much. And this is a sort of project that you do as a special thing for, so why not use things? I've done projects that have focused purely on Alice and the Alice images. And then I've got this one that really focuses on the concept of tea and a tea party, birthday, invitation of some kind. It's up to whatever suits you, really. So if you're doing multiple projects with the same paper collection, then actually you don't end up wasting stuff, even if you do buy multiple pieces. So another of my favorite decorative chips ever.
Okay.
I think one of the joys of the background chips is that you can break pieces off them, and they're generic. So although they've come with the Sleeping Beauty collection, which is gorgeous, actually it doesn't really matter. And then take some more tea, because, well, if you're British, you have to have more tea, don't you? Really.
So in British culture, does tea substitute coffee?
Oh, tea is very much tea. Tea is the British medicinal drink of choice. Absolutely.
Huh.
So I've now got another mistake. So I could stick this in with the words up the wrong way for the flap, but I'm actually going to reverse it, and we'll use the back this side, because I can't face the idea of another set of upside down words. There we are. There we are. And before I do that and stick it down, I have the Tweedledee and Tweedledum image cut out and is scored at 1 inch. Just make sure you do score it at the correct side, because this is a paper that has laterality, and I want my pocket on my flap opening to the left. So there we are. Again, it's easy if you're doing stuff for yourself and your own time, bit by bit. At home, you can take all the time in the world and layer each piece and do it as you go. It's just where we're up to, isn't it? So we now have a door, another cup, and we need, wherever it might have gone to, the decorative chipboard Wonderland. And these are relatively fragile, because the pieces there are some areas that are quite thin, so it's worth just taking your craft knife to these, and it will then just pop out. So have my door.
Okay.
Make sure you get it up the right way. Upside down doors, not good look. They're not very functional.
Not very functional, no. But in Alice's world, maybe yes.
Well, yes, Alice probably wouldn't have batted an eyelid, would she, at the idea of an upside down door? But it would irritate my OCD a little bit if I popped it on there upside down. Though, to be fair, by the time I've covered it up with these elements, you probably wouldn't really know that that's what I'd done. And I'm just going to pop some little bits. And the joy of this craft glue, it dries and grabs quite quickly, but you do have a really nice fine nozzle applicator, which again makes life easy. There we are. So there we are. So having said I wanted the flat one way, we're going to have it the other way, but hey ho, that won't matter. So back to my album.
Yeah.
It won't really matter. Well, that was intelligent, wasn't it? Not. Excuse me, just while I try and sort that one out. That might be a little bit of a headache. Right. We will resolve that. Excuse me, because it should have been stuck in at the top, clearly. If we weren't live, I'd go and cut new pieces. But hey ho, we can resolve this. And actually seeing how someone sorts out a problem is actually quite a good lesson for everyone, I think. There we are. We can do that. We'll just grab our score tool. make sure we have got the store element in it. We can store that. There we are. So we can, it is resolvable because most things are in life. And we'll just stick that in at the top. Hey ho. I don't think it would be alive if something didn't go wrong somewhere on the line. There we are. Now, in real life, I would have, again, if I was making it from scratch, I'd tuck that flat on the inside, but we'll go with the flow because it doesn't change it hugely, does it? By just swapping that around and putting it like that. There we are. Good. So that's that one resolved.
Okay.
And now we have this piece to put on. So a little bit of glue on that tab. There we are. Carefully line this up along there so it looks neat and tidy. There. And then you can cut yourself some strips that will fit in each of these pieces to complete those. Okay, so one flap that way, one flap that way.
Perfect.
I'm sure I put, there we are, there's the flap for that one.
That is so nice.
This one goes that way, this one goes that way. And then we have a box with all of our workings on the back. So we're going to take our second piece of 7-inch square card. We're going to pop that onto here. So that is going to cover up all of the workings so they're neat and tidy. So we don't forget, we're going to add another piece of ribbon. Glue that into there. And obviously use whatever ribbon that you happen to have in whatever colour that you happen to have. These are shabby vintagey ribbons, but you could use sari ribbons would work just as well if you've got those or access to those. And then this comes from the background paper pad cut down so that it's 6 3/4 by 6 3/4, so that the back looks pretty and the ribbon is sandwiched in place. So there we are. So onto here can now go onto the front. We can now put the resin piece across here. And the teacup can go there as well. So that leaves us with a little bit of fiddling and embellishing there, but our pop-up card to make. Now at this point you could try, I've got a 5-inch square card here because that fits comfortably inside my 7-inch book, but ultimately you could use and adapt the sizes so that you can use the pop-up card that Radovan has shown how to do. And I have to say that Radovan visited one of an Irish store that stocks Stamperia papers a couple of years ago, the year before we locked down, and taught some amazing classes over there. So if anyone ever gets the chance to go to one of his classes, then I would highly recommend it. Of course, you could always go to E Academy and use one of the ones from there. So this piece of paper is actually the front cover of the collectibles. And I'm using that. Yeah. So all I've done is I'm using that piece and the opposite. So these are going to be form the front of my card, basically. So let's get these pieces on here. So really, and if you didn't want to use that piece of paper, you've got smaller images on the front that you can fussy cut out, so that not a bit of the paper should go to waste. I do have to think of what I'm going to do with all the little chess pieces that I've still got to use, but I'm sure at some stage I will come up with something that will use those. So that is the outside of my card. Okay. So now we need to decorate the inside of the card. Now I find it easier because I'm adding paper to the card. I found it easier to actually split the paper in. So I've left myself a border at the end and split the paper up so that because to me it's just easier to create the mechanism and to have it lift properly, because if you're not careful when you're adding one piece of paper onto another, actually as you try to open the card, it lifts and it doesn't move nicely. So I'm deliberately leaving a little border. And the joy of course of the pop-up card kits is actually it's all printed as the base is printed as a single piece, so you don't need to stress or worry about that part of things, because it's there. And I've managed to cut this a little short, but hey ho. So I would say that if you're beginning to do pop-up mechanisms, then maybe actually it's easier to start with a kit. They're very well thought through. Everything's in them that you could possibly need, and they are a really good introduction to this type of card. Once you've done one, I'm sure you'll end up addicted, because I certainly did, and you can start make your own quite happily. Right, now then, there are lots of bits. Okay, so you need a piece of card that is going to allow you to put your elements that you want to pop up in place. So I've just literally cut a 4 centimetre piece of card and scored it, so I've got a 1 centimetre flap and divided it in two, so I've got a nice crisp fold. We will be altering this, so let me pop that out of the way. And my original card up, I might remember exactly what I did, which is always a good move, isn't it? Okay, so I've taken the Alice door, and again I've scored it approximately in half, and it's quite important that your score lines are nice and crisp, rather than when you're doing this, it just makes life easier.
Okay.
So there is our door, and so there's my central score line here, there.
Okay.
And this needs to sit exactly on top of that score line. Okay, so lined up there. So it needs a little bit of glue, and one of the joys, of course, of wet glue is it gives you a little bit of wriggle room. So I've lined it up with my score and actually the center of the door, and then I'm reinforcing that so I know that that is central. Okay.
Okay.
And then that will dry. Here we are. I've got, I think, what might have been meant to be a mirror from the original from the papers, and I'm going to divide this into. Let me pop that into there so you can see what I'm doing. There we are. So I don't need this piece scored. And this piece is going to come over here.
Okay.
That's going to go over there. Bring it up with the bottom. And its counterpart in crime, having chopped it in half.
Okay.
It's going to go over there. And that covers most of that mechanism underneath, she says, giving it a squidge and moving it about. There we are. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
so I've now got some pieces left over that I'm going to just wriggle my way around.
Hmm.
You see, and not again on, with Radovan's kits, you don't need to do things like this because it's all, as I say, shaped for you beautifully by this guy at Stamperia who thought everything through to make it really easy to make. A special card, but one that actually anyone could tackle quite happily. So there we are. Okay, so those are those pieces. And I want to have on here, I want Alice. So she's going to be glued just down here. So that she's on one side. And here I've deliberately kept clear of that central spine to make life easier. Now then, what have we got here? We've got the white rabbit.
Yeah.
Who is going to be facing in. He's checking the time of the tea party.
Okay. I feel like you still prefer fussy cutting rather than using a pre-made kit, right? I have a feeling that that's
yes. Yeah. If you give me all of these elements in a pack made of paper, cut out, then I would use them quite happily. But I don't want bulk. So the chipboard die cuts, which are beautiful, are too heavy for this this project, which is why I've avoided them and done the fussy cutting. At the end of the day, I used to be a surgeon. I'm used to having a craft knife in my hand. So it wasn't a struggle to me. But I think the die cut pieces, the chipboard die cuts are lovely. Don't get me wrong. They're really lovely. But I think that they're probably just that bit too heavy for this and too bulky for what's needed. So now I'm just going to reinforce all of these pieces because that's really quite important. Now, to make this open nicely at an angle, you actually now need to take your central line, which is, I'm going to cut where the central line is, which is there, and then out a wedge.
Okay.
So that, and that wedge is really quite important. So this is going to sit like that. And I can open it or close it as much as I want. So I find this is the easiest way of doing this. So I am putting glue just on one half of my paper. And I want the edge to sit there. And that V, the top of that V, needs to sit on the score line of the card.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you do that, let it settle down. Yeah. And now, having got that piece securely in place and lined properly with the central score line of the card, I can add some more glue. And I'm actually going to unfold that at this point. Pop that over and give it a good squash. because I think it's just the easiest way of aligning it. If you try and stick it down standing up, it just causes no end of headache for you.
Okay.
I've then taken the tea party image and I'm going to score that sort of in the middle. As long as I've got a central score line, it doesn't matter. So I don't really want it to go. On my original, I have taken my score straight through the rabbit. So we'll do the same. So now I have a fold for the centre. And I need a little flap for the bottom. So I've literally just aligned along the top of that border. And that's given me a flap for gluing.
Okay.
Go there. And there's a little bit I don't want, so that's going to come off. And again, I'm going to repeat that, taking that little wedge out of the centre. So that's my centre. And a little wedge out of each side. There we are.
Tina said a beautiful thing. She said, Jill, I really appreciate the way you not only explain what you're doing, but why you do it that way. It's really nice.
I think it's helpful, isn't it? You know, I've been crafting since I don't know when, you know, for as long as I can remember. And I've learned because people have taken the time to teach me. And if I, you know, so I think it's quite important. So here, all I've done is I did the flap underneath on that side in exactly the same way as I did the first one. And this is going to be a little bit more difficult because of the first flap. You could put this one in first if you wanted to. So let's pop that there. And that can sit down. And we'll just give it a little push to help. Okay, so that is our basis of our pop-up card. And then you can carry on and add elements as you want. So I have lots of bits and pieces here.
Okay.
So I have a 2 centimetre strip of card that I have scored at 2 centimetres, 3 centimetres, 2 centimetres, 3 centimetres, and then cut it off, so that actually all I've done is create myself a little box.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So that then gets glued together. Okay. And at this point, I'm going to put glue on the bottom and glue on the back. And that, if I turn it round, is going to go in front of Tweedledum and Tweedledee. And by attaching it only on 2 sides, it will fold down nicely. Yeah, so that just needs to glue into there. And we've given that. And I have Humpty Dumpty. That is going to go onto here. And at this point, you need to make sure Humpty Dumpty's hand isn't sticking out too far. Otherwise, he'll stick out the edge of the card, which is okay, but maybe not what you'd want. Let me just stick that down properly. So there is one of those. And we have this piece of paper is literally a 2 centimetre strip scored at 2 centimetres again to make a slightly smaller.
Okay.
If you don't like cutting, don't like scoring, the pre-made ones have all of these all done for you so that you don't need to be worried. And that is going to go here in front of the table. Let me just get it stuck down and then I'll lift it up because the angle now with the cards. So that's tucked into here.
Okay.
And that is going to have a teacup put on it.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
You're starting to receive the heart shower.
That's lovely. Thank you, guys. And then we've got one more of the 2 centimeter pieces. When you have all of these lovely fussy cut elements in the collectibles pad, they just need to be showcased and used and enjoyed. And so the pop-up cards allow you to do that without without a problem. Now it's when you're putting the pop-up elements on here, you need to keep them clear of your central mechanism because they'll get in the way of that. So yes, so if I just squash that down.
Okay.
Squash that in, grab Mr. Glue. And I've taken Alice with her crown and she's going to sit there. And then all I have is a collection of more pieces from the collectible. So we've got a frame, a little chessboard,
Okay.
a teacup.
Yeah.
Can go there. And the word drink me.
Okay.
Can go there. I'll put that up there. You might be able to see what I'm doing. I've got another frame here from the papers, but there is one in the collectible, so that's not a problem.
Okay.
This piece is going to go underneath here, up to, but not over the spine of the card.
Mm-hmm.
There we are. So it just fits in there nicely. We've got another frame to go in here. And a teacup. Go here. And a cake, which is taken from one of the fussy cut elements in the paper pad on the back cover. And eat me, because you eat cakes. So that is going to go, just be tucked into there.
Okay.
So I've got a little embellishment cluster, and this will now fold over, and I've managed to have this this sitting too far forward, but there is space in my box for that little bit to pop out. But, right.
Can you open it again a bit closer to the camera, just so that we can see the... Oh, yeah.
Of course I can. Hang on a minute. I'll just pop that slightly smaller piece of card onto there. Okay. And so we've got a cluster of elements with a teacup and drink me here. We've got our pop-up elements. If I tip it that way, that will show it nicely, with Alice and her crown, the teacup, and all of the key individuals, and another cluster of embellishments down in this corner, and it folds comfortably. So this is the front. So now we can add a teacup, a teapot even, another teapot. Now then, we now have to find Alice. So we've got an Alice chipboard. There we are. So Alice can then come here over those two.
Okay.
We've got a cup to go over there. And we've got the almost tea time. Add on there. So if you don't like these pieces that I've got hanging out here, on this piece they aren't. All that means is I've set my pop-up mechanism further back. Yeah?
Okay.
So it's easy enough to sort out. But if I try pulling that apart now, it'll just disintegrate. So
yeah, better not do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have our flaps.
Yeah.
And our box. Put those in there. And it sits comfortably.
Okay.
I would decorate these with small pieces. I'm not going to do that now, but because it's literally just a question of cutting them. And that closes over. I can then tie my bow.
Okay.
And then I have added some moss and some flowers that I've pulled off from basically a faux hydrangea.
Yeah.
So that you've got, just to add a little bit of prettiness to it and clear some of the edges. So I literally just pulled off pieces of the moss. I've tucked them into place. You just need to watch your fingers because hot glue burns. So a little tool that means that you can poke stuff into place without being burnt is always a good idea. That's a silicone tool, so again it makes life easy. I've got some tiny little hydrangea.
AJ is saying that Gill is always so prepped and is a joy to watch. Well, Tina says that the composition of each page in the album and the card is just beautiful. What a lovely gift for someone.
Well, I think it works very well as a card and as a gift, and it's just something that's a little bit different. If you wanted to take it in a different direction, then you could just you could make a pocket for the inside and add and just add a bar of chocolate inside it. That would work quite well if you didn't want to make the pop-up card. You could add a wedding invitation, an RSVP, things like that to, just to, so it doesn't have to be used just for one thing. It's a concept that you can take in lots of different directions. There we are.
Okay.
So, and at this point, I would literally just spend a little bit of time faffing about, because faffing's always good, isn't it?
It is. It always is.
Faffing's a really good thing to do. And just adding some little flowers, little extras, until I was completely happy with it. I like to add things in odd numbers rather than together, but it's about how your eye sees things, I think, as much as anything else. Doesn't just because that's my preference, that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be what's right for you. And I would totally recommend visits to whatever store sell faux flowers. You need to think about, when you're buying them, the size of the image of the pieces, because not all faux flowers will work in the same way as these. I've got another bit of ribbon, so we'll just tie that as a bow.
Okay.
That. There we are. I'm going to fold the two top tail over back on themselves.
Yes. This really is one of the most beautiful projects I've ever seen with Ali's collection.
Thank you. That's really appreciated, Giovanni. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed making it, I have to say. And I could carry on now at this point, faffing around, adding extras, messing about, until, well, forever, really. But ultimately, for me, it's the extra little bits that make things special. There we are. Pop that into there. And I'm definitely, I have to confess, a more is more girl. I like having...
More is more girl.
Yeah, absolutely. The more the better. You just have to... there is a point where a project will end up looking as if you've sneezed on it with all of your embellishments. I mean, I've certainly seen projects that I felt have been over embellished, but so I don't like having the floppy ends of the ribbons. I like to have them, possibly because I'm a control freak, but I like to have them contained where I want them. So I'm just going to add a little bit of hot glue there and put them where I want them to be. But that's my level of OCD, I think, or that I don't like them just flopping around. I know plenty of people who would be happy with them like that. And finally, as if that wasn't enough, because the moss and stuff just looks like it's plonked on there, and I've got dry brushing on my other elements, I'm just going to add a little bit of white gesso to soften and make the flowers part of the project, because before they sort of just looked like I'd added them in, and I'm deliberately adding some bits around, softening my paper just that little bit, to bring everything together. You could add glitter if you wanted to, that would work. You could add some sparkles if you wanted to, but for me, it's enough as it is. So there we are. We have a completed flip-flap box card with a pop-up card in the center. And because I've measured all of these hinges to different lengths, different widths, it sits nicely together as a box.
Yeah.
If you hadn't cut them each of them an eighth of an inch smaller for each spine, then it wouldn't sit together so nicely. Okay. So there we are, Giovanni. One project complete.
Wow.
Apart from the side pieces.
Really, congratulations. It's so beautiful. So many different details in it and different parts. You really made an astonishing creation. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And I hope people have enjoyed it.
Absolutely. If you go back and watch your this live, you will see all the beautiful comments, both from YouTube and Facebook. Everybody absolutely loved it.
I will go back and I will answer any questions.
Perfect. Okay, Gill, what can I say? Honestly, I don't have words to express how grateful I am for all the work that you did in front of the camera and behind the camera, because there was so much of that as well. So everybody, please go follow Gill on all her social media. Gill, how do we find you on social media? Gill Humphrey?
So on social media, I'm Gill Humphrey, Humphrey, as on the screen now. And on, I also have a group called The Crafty Surgeon. But I post regularly to Stampers worldwide. So yeah, you'll see my projects around on lots of social media platforms.
Perfect.
Someone asked to see the project closer. Which bit did they want? This is the front.
Yeah.
And if I open it, I'm conscious that moving can make people feel seasick. So we've got a flap and a flap.
Okay.
Here we have a flap and a flap and a flap. And we've got our flap here.
Okay.
And that flap here. And the piece de resistance, our pop-up
Nice.
card.
So beautiful.
So there we are. So Giovanni, what everyone is wanting to know is who has won the pizza box for the week.
Yes. So the pizza box winner is Katarzyna Charlak.
Very good.
Katarzyna.
Congratulations, Katarzyna.
Yes. And well, with that said, I think we can go.
Okay, bye-bye everyone. Please take care and have a good day.
You too. Ciao, ciao, ciao. Let me put on a nice video to end it up. Oh yeah, this week we are presenting the new edition of the Alchemy collection. Have you seen it?
I have indeed. I have the original, and I am loving the additional pieces that have been that are sitting in the catalogue. And my bank manager will not be very happy with me because let's face it, I will be buying it. But there you are.
Excellent. So let's watch it together and see you next time. Ciao,
Okay,
ciao, ciao.
bye. Ciao.